So many times we hear that phrase, man, I want to feel like $1,000,000, or like, I feel like $1,000,000 tonight. And what exactly is that feeling, right? And so often we think of it as like, oh, I'd be celebrating, I'd have like the bottle of champagne and some awesome suit on, I'd be laughing, and it would be just amazing, free, joyful, fulfilled. But the reality is, the people who have $1,000,000 and beyond rarely feel those things. And notice that paradox, that disconnect, that we think that money is going to give us that feeling of that freedom, that joy, and the fulfillment. What if I told you it's possible to have that feeling right now, even if you don't have $1,000,000, or better yet, if you've got the $1,000,000 beyond and found out it didn't give you the feelings you were hoping for? Because so many of the guys who come to me are high achievers. They're grinding in their careers. They've achieved success, and the bank account, bloop, 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 the money's all stacked up, but they're still fundamentally feel like something's missing from their life. And so what I've discovered by helping these guys and through my own journey of becoming a millionaire is that the problem isn't money, it's our relationship with money. And that's good, both news and bad news. Because the one thing, it's much easier to change our relationship with money than it is to actually change the amount of money in the bank account. Because one is internal, one's external. And in one, we have a lot of power over how I feel in my relationship with something, but externally, right, it's much harder. Like there's economic forces, and you can't control the stock market, right? So it's much harder to move that external amount. So let's go a level deeper. So I had an amazing coaching conversation with a bunch of my clients today. And one of them, Sam, was telling a story. He had a profound conversation with a friend of his who's a real estate developer. And the real estate developer just closed a very successful deal. And last week, a wire hit his account for $1 million. $1 million check, right? Boom, hit his account. And the developer told Sam, man, I felt nothing. Nothing. And that is more common than you would think. It was just another million. And one of the guys in the call was a doctor. And he's like, yeah, if I just, $1 million land in my account, I'll just, put it next to the other money. And I just keep doing what I'm doing, right? I would just put it in the account. Like it wouldn't make a difference to him. And there's two aspects of this I want to explore. One is that, why is that? So often that doctor and the real estate developer, so often we're compromise our authentic self. We compromise the person we want to be in order to get the money. And that's why we're so numbed out by it. That we've spent so much time just grinding and stacking and succeeding and achieving, and that we've lost that capacity to really be present and joyful. And that younger, more passionate version of us has just been beaten down by work. And by the time we've reached that level of success where that money finally arrives, it's like, we've already paid such a big personal price that the reward doesn't even feel worth it at that moment, because we compromised who we were. Not to say you did unethical things, but we compromised, so many guys I picked medicine because I'm smart, I'm good at it. Or I talked to engineers, I picked engineering because, I was good at math. And I went into tech because, there's a lot of money in tech, right? Rather than doing the thing we truly loved, right? In order to get the money. Now, the second aspect I want to, and that's a real cautionary tale, right? And that's a solvable problem. The second part I want to unpack, though, is this idea of it not making a difference. And it was so fascinating that the doctor was like, yeah, I'll just keep doing put the money in my account, keep doing what I've been doing. And Sam responded back to him and was like, isn't that a shame? Because I'm not sensing that'd be a celebration. What if when that money arrived, you were like, yeah, my life's so good, I'm going to keep doing it. That wasn't the energy you brought. It was more like a meh kind of feeling. What's interesting is I remember that's never been my relationship with money. I remember a time when I didn't have a lot of money, when I was a outdoor professional. I was ski patrolling in Colorado for Vail Resorts in the winter. I was teaching mountaineering for Colorado Outward Bound in the summer, and I was living in my car in between the two. I had $15,000 in my bank account, and I was like, I'm rich. I'm going to Alaska. That's how I felt right at that time in my life. Because freedom and living authentically was so important to me. But the story I want to share is that the Mega Millions or whatever, the lotto had some like ridiculous jackpot. So I went and bought a few tickets, and all it takes is $1 and a sucker, right? But like what I bought in that moment was a dream. Like what if suddenly I had all this abundance, right? What if I won the Mega Millions? And I sat there, and I was on a long road trip, driving out to meet a buddy to go climbing, actually. And at night, a lot of time to think in my head. And it struck me as I sat there, well, if I actually won this, what would I change? And it struck me in that moment, like, actually, would I still show up to work? Like, yeah. Like, I loved ski patrolling. Like, I would absolutely show up to work. Would I quit Outward Bound? Hell no. Like, I love the impact of bringing people in the mountains and seeing them light up. And as I sat there, I was like, oh my God, like, maybe instead of my old Subaru, I'd buy a newer car. And then I was like, hey, you know what I'd really do? The thing that actually lit me up, I was like, I would take my best friends and we'd all just go heli skiing in Alaska. Like, I'll just, because none of my friends at that time had any access to that kind of money. And that's the thing that excited me the most. I was like, that's the only change I would make. And that was such a moment for me because I realized this is how I want to live all my life. I never, ever want to compromise who I am, what I believe in, what I want to trade my time for just simply money. Like I will trade my time for purpose. I will trade my time for impact, but I will never trade my time for money. No. Money will come because I chose what I'm passionate about. Money will come because I chose impact. Money will come because I chose purpose. But it's never the thing, that leads. Those are the byproduct of doing and living a life that inspires me. And that's what I bring to all the guys I talk with. And I was sitting there in that same coaching call, having a conversation with another gentleman, Doug, highly successful. He's got, wife drives a Porsche, got the vacation home at the ski house and the regular house, all this stuff, right? And he's like, Chris, I spent all my life just stacking the cash. And I'm like, well, Doug, is that what you want to keep doing? And he's like, no, man, it feels empty. Like the most meaningful thing I did all year was I go down to the homeless shelter and I volunteered. But like, I got 3 kids. I got to be Friday. I can't do that. And as we helped him, and I was, change his relationship with money, that wasn't just about success with stacking cash. I was like, what if we stacked a different currency? What if we stacked that feeling that instead of stacking cash, we stacked impact. We stacked that feeling of contribution, of giving that you felt at the homeless shelter, right? How can you do that within the confines of your current job? And then, he lit up and he's like, you know what? I can stack mentorship. I can stack of the guiding the younger people, men and women at my firm, the next generation, and pass on all my knowledge I have of my industry. And so he's actually started doing that. And this is an ongoing conversation. And it's lighting him up. He was like, that was the most, meaningful. He's like, when he talks about that, he's like, that's the most meaningful part of my day now, is when, I get to do that mentorship piece. Because that inspires him. So my question is, what inspires you? And how can you bring in that feeling right now to work without having to change your bank account? One more topic I want to hit is back to the $1 million. I want to feel like $1 million. So how do you want to feel when you look at your bank account? So many people look at their bank account and they don't feel free. They actually feel worry. So many people that get to 1 million and they're like, instead of like celebrating and popping the cork, they might do that for a moment. But then all too quickly, the next thought is, man, wouldn't life be so much better with 2? Wouldn't that be so much better? And when I feel safer, I got to protect. Now I got all these assets. I got to, look at my mortgage. It's really big. If I had 2 million, then I wouldn't worry about having to pay my mortgage. And so we feel that we'll be safe with more money, that it will provide financial security. It's even baked right into the word. But money and security are not the same thing. That feeling of safety all too often doesn't come. Because the paradox of this is, and I actually wrote an article for Forbes about this, I'll drop the link in the comments below, it's actually the opposite. The more money people have, the more afraid they become to lose it. More money, more fear. It's not just more money, more problems. problems, like that old song, right? It's actually more money, more fear, the fear of losing it, of falling backwards, of not having the lifestyle to which I've become accustomed to. And if you don't believe me, just look at Adolf Merkel, classic case study in this. In March 2008, Forbes listed him, Adolf Merkel, he's German, as the 94th richest man on the planet with a net worth of 9.2 billion. Yeah, with a B, billion, right? 2008 financial crisis hits, and Adolf made some bad bets, especially on Volkswagen, right? And his net worth goes down, and in January of 2009, he walks in front of a train killing himself. Suicide, right? Now, the crazy part is he was still technically a billionaire at the time of his death, but the shame and, all his, the emotional turmoil of going from 9.2 to, well, still billions, right? Was too much for him to handle. He was still technically a billionaire at the time of his death, but he didn't feel it. He wasn't celebrating popping that cork like we were just talking about. It felt like failure to him. And so, if you don't, that's obviously an outlier, extreme example. Most of us aren't billionaires, right? Let's make this personal. Look at your own state, right? Could you imagine if the younger version of you saw the bank account that you had right now? Imagine 20-year-old you pulled out your financials and saw what they had. I don't know about you, but 20-year-old Chris, or the guy was just, actually this 22-year-old me, was the one driving around in the car I was just telling you about my Subaru. He'd be like, do, 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 do. He'd be taking his friends heli skiing to Alaska, right? Now, obviously, I'm not paying for all my friends to go heli skiing in Alaska. I mean, there's realities here, and I've got a kid and a mortgage and all that stuff too. But I live in that feeling, and I invited a whole bunch of my friends, and I rallied a whole group, and I had 8 of us, heli skiing and snowcat skiing in British Columbia and Alaska. I just got my friends together. And that's how I celebrated my abundance, right? So why can't you access that feeling, that celebration? How do we change that relationship with money, that you can feel like that younger version of you, that joy is available to you right here, right now, that sense of celebration is available to you? That's how I felt when I was doing those trips I just mentioned, this dream ski trips that I did happen, right? And so if we want to change your relationship with money, if you want to feel safe, secure, abundant, fulfilled, joy right here, right now, it's absolutely possible. That's what I'm helping Doug do, Sam do, and that's why Sam was able to coach the real estate developer buddy. What would you have to focus on or believe to access those emotional states right now? Whatever it is you want to feel, joy, abundance, safe, secure, what would you have to focus on and believe about your life right now in order to access those emotional states right now? Not some future day, not mañana, here. So let's change your relationship with money, because that is the change. Because so often we just raise the number, the money on the screen, and right now money is just a fiction. It's a story. It's just a number on a digital screen, right? It's about the feelings and the emotional relationship you have with the money that matters, and that's good news. So if you're interested in doing that, reach out, submit your questions, comments, reach out to me, let's chat. I'd love to help. Cheers.